Hi, my name is Danny Nail. I'm head of global account-based marketing for SAP. Do you want your marketing program to be a McDonald's menu, or do you want it to be a 6-star restaurant experience? Find out how on Break Free.
Welcome to Break Free with TopRank Marketing. I'm Joshua Knight, and I'm here with Danny Nail, the Global Head of Account-Based Marketing at SAP. Danny, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, my pleasure.
You are the first interview today. We've got a beautiful morning out here on the lanai, I guess we call it here. But so welcome to Global Head, or Head of Global Account-Based Marketing at SAP. That sounds like that might be a big job. SAP is not a small company. How'd you get into that position?
Actually, I was, before this position, I was handling our retail, what we call sprint team, and focused on the retail industry. But I've always had a propensity towards account-based marketing through our work with Serious Decisions and some other groups like ITSMA. And when they came to me and said, we're going to start an account-based marketing program, I said I would like to help with that. And so they gave me a portion called industry account-based marketing. At the global level, that's the account-based marketing has remained in place. We have account-based marketing efforts within SAP, within our North America team has a great account-based marketing team. SAP Concur has a great account-based marketing team. The stuff that I do is focused on 30 to 40 accounts globally. And the things that I create for those accounts can also be used with the accounts that are in North America or within the accounts within other countries. So my objective was to make an industry ABM program that was scalable, but not in the sense that most people think of scalability and the templatizing of everything, but scalable in the ability to reversion each asset that I have created for an industry for another account in that same industry.
Is that a challenging task, for that reversioning task? How much effort's involved in that?
For our internal folks, not much, because I've developed what I call the ABM Asset Delivery Platform. I worked with my agency to develop that. What it is a library of the assets we've already created for our ABM program at the global level. So think about if you have, let's say, 5 accounts in oil and gas globally, and they're in 4 different regions. But the things that you create for them are synergistic across all 5 accounts. So if they can be used for those 5 accounts, they most likely are going to be usable for any other oil and gas account in the world. So what we do is they're on the platform. A seller or a marketer can go onto the platform and actually order that asset to be versioned for that account. We do it at what we call level 3. It takes 3 to 5 weeks, costs €1,500. And they've got this great asset that looks like it was developed specifically for their account, for their initiative.
So this is a platform that's almost a self-serve for sales and marketing?
Think Amazon for ABM assets.
Fantastic. So you said both sales and marketing, and we know ABM can kind of straddle that divide. Were there any challenges that you faced trying to get ABM aligned with both the sales team and the marketing team?
I think that the biggest challenge is the relationship with sales, because historically marketing and sales have kind of been at odds a bit, which is unfortunate, but ABM brings the two together. So throughout the development of each of my programs, I work closely with the sales leads of each of the accounts within the program. They're involved in the creation of the assets. They're involved in the messaging that happens within the assets for their account. So they have the opportunity to, at the end of the day, tailor their assets, the things that I develop for them, even more so for their specific account, so they know it resonates with their account. The key to that is understanding the sales cycle and understanding how sellers think and what they're up against. So we know that every year, at certain times of the year, they're going to be involved in Sapphire or field kickoff meetings or end of quarter close. So we've got to watch out and be cognizant of the things that the salespeople are facing, so that when we go to them and ask for their time, we're going at a time when we know they would have time.
So in some of our other interviews, we talked about how when you're talking account-based marketing, part of the thing that people have trouble letting go of in sales and marketing is that idea of credit of attribution. You know, well, if we work this closely with sales, who gets the credit for the sale? Is that something that you encountered? And if so, how did you encounter that?
You're going to encounter that all the time. I mean, it's just human nature. Everybody wants to take credit for something. The way I look at it is if I create something that I know they've used, I can use that as an example. Many times I get emails back from sellers or from people that have ordered assets off the platform. In fact, just this morning, I got an Appreciate award from someone who had ordered an asset off of the platform to say thank you because they were able to reuse an asset I'd produced for someone else and use it with their account, right? So you don't get as much attribution as you would like normally, but it's there. And usually the sellers, if you're engaged with them enough, I've got probably 7 or 8 use cases where I've developed slides, vignettes that are success stories basically, and continue to try to do that.
Is there any kind of measurement built into the platform?
In the platform, absolutely. So when someone orders an asset off the platform, with some of the things that in the order questionnaire that they have to fill out are, how are you using this asset? Is it for demand gen? Is it for, because you can use these assets for demand gen, or you can use them for full-blown ABM, right? So there's a generic version of the asset on the platform, but you can also get it versioned for a specific account. And so we ask, how are you using it? Is it a sales initiative? Is it for a door opener? Is it for an event? How are you using it? And then what's the revenue target of the program you're using it for? If it's a campaign, what's the revenue target of that campaign? If it's a customer, what's the deal size of that customer? So we're starting to recognize through the platform more monetary relationship between our assets and how they're being used.
So then that's data you can generate reports with, and that warms my marketer heart to hear.
In fact, from last year over year, we've increased 40% in revenue target from the platform. So more than a few million euro worth of additional revenue target of accounts that wouldn't have gotten ABM, but now are getting ABM because of the platform.
That's that whole ABM at scale. That's the dream, right?
But it's real ABM. The thing that I see lately is there's a lot of talk about ABM in relation to what's really target account marketing, right? So it's kind of like if you go to McDonald's and you look at the menu and you order a Big Mac, you're showing intent for a Big Mac. You're going to get served a Big Mac. But so is everybody else that shows intent on that Big Mac. So the experience is always the same. In ABM, the experience shouldn't always be the same. It should be slightly tailored or a little bit more tailored or even a lot more tailored to that specific target account.
It does seem like there are as many definitions of ABM as there are people with ABM solutions to sell.
That's right. It's very confusing.
But you think it does come down to just, are we differentiating for a specific account and not, say, like an entire vertical?
The ITSMA has 3 core principles for ABM, what makes ABM. So the first is targeting revenue, reputation, or relationship. So they call it the 3 R's. And the bottom line on that one, and it even states it in one of their presentations, if it's about generating leads, it's not ABM. The second part is having sales involved in the process, having the sales team of the account that you're working on involved in the process. So if sales isn't involved and in my case, they're actually involved in the creation of the assets, much less just using the assets. But if sales isn't involved, it's probably not really ABM. And then the third is customization. So if you're serving the same message to everyone that you're sending it to, it's probably not ABM because there needs to be some customization. And the good part about that, especially with account-based marketing, is it puts the customer at the forefront of what you're doing. So marketers used to create white papers that they would send to whoever, right? They'd send out a white paper, and if you registered, you were probably a lead. ABM takes it to the point of, we are trying to understand what you, the customer, care about before we even create anything. And once we know what you care about, that's when we create the material we're going to serve you.
So I like the analogy then, if McDonald's is the not ABM, then it's a Subway or a Burger King?
Could be not ABM either. Well, Subway would be more close to ABM. That would be, I would say Burger King, McDonald's, target account marketing. Thousands, right? Subway, everybody gets it close to their own way. but then maybe you go to some 5-6 star restaurant where you actually can completely change the ingredients of everything, and you can order off the menu and get whatever you want.
So is that level of flexibility in your platform?
Yes. So in my platform, the assets that are on there start as generic. So they can be used for demand gen, so they can be McDonald's, or they can go all the way to level 4. So let's say you have an asset that's built for automotive, but someone wants to take that same asset. They like the way it works. They like the fact that it tells a linear story, but they'll take that same asset and create it and change it to oil and gas. So the background changes to an oil and gas background, the vehicles and everything that may be in that asset change to oil and gas. The full-on content changes.
So this is kind of a radically cool thing that you're doing. How did this come to be?
When I was asked to start the industry ABM program at SAP, there were 2 objectives: have global marketing get closer to sales and create something that can be scalable. Typically, when people think of scalability, they think of templates. Let's make a template for a white paper, a template for, so the whole bill of material is templatized. White paper, tweets, let's have 3 tweets, 2 sets of blog copy, an email, and the white paper, and maybe an infographic that comes from the white paper, right? Every program, same bill of materials. With the platform and the way we build the assets, we don't even think about what we're going to build until we know the story we're going to tell. And once we know the story we're going to tell, depending on what type of story it is, that's when we decide what type of asset or material we're going to build and then that goes onto the platform. Starts as generic, but then you can have it versioned at a number of different levels.
I'm just curious about the process of how the platform itself, how the ideation of
sure.
Where did we come up with, let's have a platform that's customizable, and then seeing that through to fruition. That must have been a gigantic job.
I worked with the agency on it, my agency Momentum ABM. I worked with them to ideate it. We sat in a room one day and started talking about how can we do this, what types of things need to be in it. I would come back with requirements. They would come back with the way it would work. It took 6 months, 9 months to build. Of course, that's after we've had a few rounds of developing assets, because before you can have a platform, you've got to have things to feed the platform. So we started with, I think, 25 assets on the platform. Now we're up to about 100 because my colleagues at SAP Concur and SuccessFactors have created assets that are now on the platform for their sellers. So now it's becoming more widely utilized from different areas of the company.
This is something that's reaching across lines of business. Is it people coming to you and saying, hey, can we get some of that for
Yes.
SuccessFactors?
How do I get an asset on your platform? But the assets that go on the platform, they can't be straight up solution assets, right? A lot of people are like, well, why don't we put the white papers on there? Why don't we put the whatever? I'm like, that's not what kind of assets we put on here. They have to be versionable. They have to be where we can take them and make them specific to a customer. And it needs to be about a topic, not a solution. So the assets that are on the platform and that we do for the global ABM program rarely talk much at all about SAP or our solutions. They're intended to talk to the customer about the topic the customer is interested in. And then that starts the conversation that a seller can take and lead that customer down the path that they're trying to lead them on to the solution set and the way they have it planned on their account plan to get them to buy the next logical solution.
I can see whereas if it were a platform that just spit out copy to sell SAP products, that people wouldn't be nearly as excited about that.
No, and neither are our customers. They don't always just want to read about SAP. In fact, if you send the first thing you ever send them is a big brochure on SAP, they may not even open it. But what we've found with the assets off the platform is they're getting on average 16 page views per asset. So across all of those 100 assets and across all the ones that have been developed, because each time we develop one of these assets, we give it a unique URL. So we can track every asset that we've developed via Google Analytics or whatever, and track the open rates, who's opening it, or not who, but what IP address or what country they're in and that kind of thing.
Can you see how deep they're going into it and when they might drop off?
Yeah, we can see, and that's where the page views comes in. So we can see how many average page views, how many click through, how many times they're going through the asset, because nearly each page in an asset kind of has its own unique URL too. So as they click through, we know where they're going.
That's fantastic. So then you go back and optimize some of those assets after the fact, or is it more of a, once it's built, it's kind of out there?
Well, the platform's been out for a year, so we're just now getting to the part where we've got enough data to start being able to analyze some of that and maybe go make those tweaks. So every year I put into my budget the budget to update assets on the platform for that purpose. It's just now we're getting the data to do that.
Fantastic. So moving a little more to the personal here, I think, but we'll keep it in the marketing realm.
Okay.
So I'm not going to ask about your hobbies or your golf game or anything, but what drew you to marketing, do you think, and what keeps you interested in this profession that you're in?
What drew me to marketing, if you want the real truth,
Absolutely.
is I hated accounting.
Ah,
So I started with a general business major, hated accounting. I thought I don't want to do that. So I ended up going to the mass communications area, and I started out in the agency side and then went from there into the marketing side or the client side. And what I love about marketing is the constant challenge of change. There's whether it's change within an organization or change within the field of marketing, like going from the old days where we would send out, like I said, blast an email out. If you registered for the white paper, that showed intent, and then all of a sudden we called it a lead. Now we've got so much data that we can pull from all of these MarTech vendors, and so many ways to more efficiently and effectively get our message out. It's continually changing and evolving, and that just continues to make it exciting.
So we usually ask, like, how do you think marketing is going to change in the next 5 years? I'm starting to think that question is not a fair one, because it's almost impossible to predict that. But I think what would be more interesting that I want to ask you is, where do you want to take marketing in the next 5 years?
Where I want to take marketing in the next 5 years is where I think marketing should evolve in the next 5 years, of course. The things that some people are calling ABM that are really target account marketing, that should be the way we market on a daily basis. We should know what about interest and intent data for our target accounts. We should have a set of target accounts that we're monitoring and serving our material to when they're ready for it and when they're basically asking for it because they're showing intent on it. That should be the marketing across the board. But then that should also lead to accounts where we can do account-based marketing. So the continuum should be from target account marketing to ABM, to one-to-one ABM, all the way across that scale, but it should start with target account marketing.
So we want to be done with putting out content that isn't customized or targeted in any
Target
way.
at least. So, if you're going to send something to somebody, at least make it as close to industry specific as you can so that it's talking in their language and it's talking about their problems. Because HR issues, everyone would think they're the same, but retail has totally different HR issues than oil and gas because of seasonality, and you've got seasonal workers around Christmas and holidays and things like that. So you need to be able to understand that and show your customers that you understand that, because that's how they're thinking.
I think we had this feeling that we have limited resources, so we have to find as much of a synergy as we can between messaging. And it seems like with some of the technology that you're working with, that we don't have to make that trade-off anymore.
That's right. I think that, and that's one of the things I think is marketers have typically, when they've thought scalability, again, they've thought templatized. And instead of thinking templatized, think of different ways to scale, like the platform or the way you create the material that you create to make it more scalable, as opposed to making it templatized. Use the creative you've done for one thing and repurpose it for another thing. So we've done that with one of our assets is an automotive asset. That's where a car is driving through a village, and it's a linear story. So the next time we had a linear story, we changed it from a car driving through a village to a person walking through a store. Same asset, just repurposed so that we could get the scale of at least the programming that we had done on the back end of the asset to make the retail asset.
Well, what do these assets look like? Are they static, or is there motion, video embedded?
Very interactive. One asset that we have, it basically tells the story of how a bank can interact with their customer on a digital basis. In the background is a video of the same person in different shots throughout the asset. So every time you go from page to page, the video changes in the background. So when the bank is looking at it, they can feel like that's actually their customer. When they click on the dots on each screen, it's telling the story of how they're interacting with that customer. And we may also show a picture of a phone, like he's working on his phone, we'll show the phone face, and that's branded for that customer. So it looks like their app.
That is fantastic. So if you have, say if somebody has the aspiration and the philosophy that shared with you that we want to have these assets be more targeted, be more customized to people, and they don't have SAP's resources, what would be a good way to get started with this, do you think?
The funny thing is, just because we're SAP doesn't mean we always spend a lot of money, right? So I don't have as much budget as people would think. I just happen to work with an agency that understands ABM and understands how to do it and understands how to make assets that are more easily customizable. So we may create an asset that it may cost 10,000 euro to create it. But every time you reuse it, it's only 1,500 for them to do the work that makes it for each of those assets. For each customer they customize it for. So it really, in the end of the day, saves us money because we put the upfront investment in, but instead of a marketer in Brazil ordering and working with an agency and creating their own asset and spending maybe another 10,000 euro, they're coming to us and spending 1,500 euro or 750 euro. So it's saving money in the long run.
So it's really just finding those spots where you can eliminate that duplicated effort.
Yes.
I guess that starts with being able to see your whole process and see where that duplicated effort is to begin with.
Right. Well, and just thinking creatively about the process and thinking where are the points where we can either cut cost or save cost, do something different with our resources to make it scalable or to make it more efficient or effective from a budgetary standpoint or a resource standpoint. So the platform saves people in the field time. They don't have to spend their time creating assets. It saves them money because they're just buying a portion of an asset, just the tweaking of it to make it more customized. So it saves everybody time and money.
And it's measurable.
And it's measurable.
Which is, I always have to come back to, wow, we can measure, we can attribute.
Yep.
That's fantastic. Well, Danny, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people get a hold of you? How would you prefer they get in touch?
Just look up for me on LinkedIn. Danny Nail on LinkedIn would be the easiest way.
Fantastic. And now our one tricky, deliberately vague question, the gotcha moment of our entire interview. Whatever this means to you, what can marketers do, B2B marketers do to break free?
They have to let go of templatizing and old ideas. You have to break free of thinking about things the way we've always thought about them and start really digging into how you can change what you're doing and make it more efficient, more effective, but be creative about that. Because the platform didn't exist, but now it does. And that's because we got creative about how we could scale ABM as opposed to adding people to scale or adding money to scale. How do you make the things that you do more replicable and scalable in a different way?
Well, there you have it. We need to apply the same level of creativity that we apply to making great content to these processes, to find those synergies and find those places where we can get some economies of scale. And you don't have to break the bank to do it. That's been Break Free. I'm Joshua Knight. I'll see you next time.